He saw her standing at the waterline at midnight. Every instinct told him to go to her. The one thing that kept him alive was that he didn't. This is the story of what was really waiting for him in the dark. There are places in this world that remember things, not people, not history books, not gravestones. The land remembers, the water remembers, and sometimes, if you're unlucky enough to be in the right place at the wrong time, it will try to tell you. Callum wasn't the kind of man who believed in signs. He was practical, logical, a software developer from Portland taking a solo trip to Crescent Hollow, a quiet stretch of Oregon, coastline where the sea meets the sky and absolutely nothing happens. That was the plan. Nothing. Gloriously, peacefully, nothing. He boarded the evening train and settled into his seat by the window, watching the city slowly dissolve into darkness. That's when the old fisherman sat across from him. He was ancient, deeply tanned skin, white stubble, hands like driftwood. He smelled of salt and something older than salt. He didn't ask permission. He just sat down, looked at Callum directly, and said,
"You're going to the coast."
It wasn't a question.
Crescent Hollow. Long weekend.
The fisherman was quiet for a moment, then,
"Don't rent the blue cottage, the one at the far end of the beach road. Don't go there."
Why not?
The fisherman looked out the window, into the dark.
"Because she'll find you there. She always finds someone there."
She?
They call her Sable. She walks the beach at high tide, long hair, white dress. She looks lost, like she needs help. Don't help her. Don't follow her. Don't speak her name.
You're serious?
The fisherman turned back. His eyes were steady, tired, like a man who had repeated this warning too many times and watched too many people ignore it.
She is not the danger. She is the warning. The danger comes after her.
The train slowed at the next station. The fisherman stood up.
"Remember, not the blue cottage."
And he was gone. Callum sat alone in his seat, half amused, half unsettled. He had already booked the blue cottage 3 weeks ago. The cottage was beautiful. Of course it was. Perched right at the edge of the beach, weathered blue paint, a small porch facing the sea. The kind of place travel bloggers dream about. Callum told himself the old man was just eccentric, superstitious, a local with too much folklore, and too little sleep. By the second night, he had almost forgotten about it entirely. He sat on the porch after dinner, whiskey in hand, the sea roaring black and silver in front of him. High tide, the waves were aggressive tonight, climbing higher up the sand than they had the night before. And then he saw her. Far down the beach, a figure, a woman, standing completely still at the edge of the waterline, the waves rushing up around her feet and retreating, as if even the sea was afraid to touch her. White dress, long dark hair plastered to her face by the wind. She wasn't moving, just standing there, staring at the water. Callum set down his glass. She looks lost, he thought. She looks like she needs help. He stood up, and then the fisherman's words came back to him, like a cold hand on the back of his neck.
She looks lost, like she needs help. Don't help her.
He sat back down, slowly, heart hammering. The woman turned her head. She looked directly at him. Even from that distance, he could see her face clearly in the moonlight. Young, terrified, eyes wide and desperate, like someone drowning on dry land. She mouthed something. He couldn't hear it over the waves, but he read her lips.
Help me.
Every instinct in his body screamed at him to go to her. He gripped the armrest of his chair and stayed exactly where he was. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked over her shoulder, quickly, sharply, like someone had called her name from the darkness behind her, and she walked backward into the waves and disappeared. Callum didn't sleep that night. He went into the village the next morning with shaking hands and a question he didn't know how to ask. He found a small diner run by an old woman who had clearly lived on this coastline her entire life. He sat down, ordered coffee, and carefully asked,
Do you know anything about a woman named Sable? Someone who walks the beach at high tide?
The old woman's hands went still on the counter. She looked at him for a long time. Then she sat down across from him and spoke in a low, careful voice.
Sable was a real girl, 23 years old. She used to rent that blue cottage every summer. She was a painter, loved the sea. 4 years ago, she went missing. Police said she drowned. Accident. Case closed.
But
The old woman's jaw tightened.
But we knew. Everyone here knew. She didn't drown by accident. The caretaker of that cottage, a man named Harlan, he was the last one to see her. That same night she disappeared, he was seen dragging something toward the water. We told the police. They didn't listen. Harlan had money, connections. The case was buried.
where is Harlan now?
He still manages that cottage. Has for 4 years.
Callum's mind went back to the night before, to Sable standing at the waterline, to her eyes, not the eyes of a ghost hunting for a victim, but the eyes of someone, desperately pointing at something behind her. And he remembered, she didn't look at him with hunger or malice. She looked over her shoulder. She wasn't warning him away from herself. She was warning him about whoever was standing in the dark behind her. That afternoon, Callum made 2 phone calls. The first to a journalist friend in Portland, the second to the police, not the local police. 3 weeks later, Harlan was arrested. A proper investigation, the kind money couldn't bury this time, uncovered evidence that had been hidden for 4 years. Sable's case was reopened. Justice, as it turned out, moved slowly, but it moved. On his last night in Crescent Hollow, Callum sat on the porch of the blue cottage one final time. He looked out at the sea, at the waterline, at the place where she had stood. It was empty. He raised his glass quietly toward the water and said nothing. Some things don't need words. The old fisherman on the train had said,
She is not the danger. She is the warning.
He was right. He just didn't know that some warnings aren't meant to frighten you away. Some warnings are a dead girl's last hope that someone will finally listen.